Am I the asshole for telling my uncle I don't want to be like his kids? Backstory. My mom died when I, 14 female, was little. She had been sick for a while, and before she died she set everything up so I would go to her best friend, Katie. My uncle, Nick, fought for custody of me after my mom died because he thought I should be with family. Katie has custody of me and adopted me, but I spend one weekend a month with Nick and his family, although lately it's been a little less because of competitions. The visits to Nick's house aren't court-ordered. Katie just wants me to have a connection with my bio family. Nick and Katie are very different parents. Katie and her husband are both doctors. Nick is a cop and his wife is a preschool teacher. I've been in private school my entire life, and my school is 1-2 years ahead of the local public schools, which are also some of the best in the area and are ahead of the public schools in other areas. Nick and his wife homeschool their kids, 10, 14, 16, mostly for political reasons. I do competitive cheerleading through my school, and I do competitive dance through a studio. I also play piano. I used to do clarinet, but I just quit to have more time for cheer. Nick's kids go to church youth group and youth choir, and don't do any other activities. Katie also makes me earn my allowance. I have to work, and she'll match whatever I make at the end of the month, and Nick just gives his kids money whenever. I was at Nick's house last weekend, and he was doing his usual thing where he talks shit about Katie and her parenting and how I never have free time. Not true, by the way, because I'm always doing homework or at dance or cheer or working, and how his kids actually get to be kids because they only do 2-3 hours of school a day and don't have to worry about competitions or maintaining a 3.0 GPA. My school requires you to have a 3.0 for any extracurriculars, and if I'm not allowed to participate in school activities, I'm not allowed to participate in after-school activities. He said something like, wouldn't it be nice to slow down and get to be a kid like his kids do? I told him I like my life the way it is, and I wouldn't want to be like his kids. I'm going to start dual enrollment college classes next year, and I don't know if his kids are even going to be able to go to college considering my 10-year-old cousin still can't multiply single-digit numbers, and my 14-year-old cousin is technically a grade above me, but she can't solve simple linear equations. Plus, they don't have any hobbies. Every time I come over, we just go to the mall and look around and watch movies at their house and eat a lot of fast food. He got pissed because I have no right to criticize his parenting and insult his kids, so he called Katie and told her to pick me up early because I'm a spoiled, entitled brat that thinks I'm better than them. Katie thinks I should have just smiled and nodded, and that I went a little too far. We've decided it'll be best if I don't go to their house for a while, but I'm starting to feel bad because I did kinda call my cousin stupid. LMFAO, why does your uncle get to judge and insult you and your aunt? But when you give back just one sentence, it's the end of the world? Ta. He's just mad because you hit a sore spot. You didn't call them stupid, you called them uneducated. There is a huge difference. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. There's a reason your mom chose Katie. Did you go too far? Maybe, but part of growing up is learning. Diplomacy. Next time stick with a nod, a smile, and maybe a, I like my life the way it is. And leave it at that. Am I the asshole for telling my Russian grandfather not to critique how I spoke to a doctor while translating? For context, I, 21M, am Russian-American and have been living in the US since childhood. I speak perfect English and perfect Russian, which was my first language. My dad's parents also moved here from our hometown in Russia, but barely speak the language. They can read and interpret some words, but cannot hold any meaningful conversation in English. My grandmother unfortunately has multiple health issues, so my father or I are frequently driving her to appointments and translating whenever the doctor isn't Russian speaking. Today, I visited them as usual to help my grandmother with a video call. The doctor was American and obviously didn't speak a word of Russian, so I was the median. It went fine, but there were some connection issues. The doctor herself was this older matter-of-fact woman who spoke pretty fast. So I was making sure to say, okay, understood, thank you, as she was giving instructions, just to make it clear that we heard and understood what she was saying. She also wanted to schedule my grandmother for an in-person visit, so I had to clarify various details and be 1000% sure about the logistics. At least for me, it's pretty common in English/the US to politely periodically say, MHM, yes, understood, good, while nodding to make it clear to the other person that you are actively listening. Well, my grandfather, who sat out of view, thought otherwise and made sure to let me know of it after the call ended. He thought my yeps, good, makes sense, thank yous along with clarifying interjecting questions, and me occasionally pausing my grandmother during her long sentences to ensure translation accuracy was socially incorrect. He comes from a Soviet/Russian military background and can't fathom that I would interject or slightly interrupt the doctor during the conversation. His argument was, "You often talk too fast, and your interruptions can cost you at work and with your friends, etc." I was getting pissed that he was lecturing me about cultural speech mannerisms he has no clue about, and decided to let him know of it politely at first. I tried to explain the doctor's older age/temperament required clarifications/interjecting questions on behalf of my grandma. It's a brief call, and I need as much info as possible, as we can't simply talk to her forever or call her 10 minutes later if we forgot to ask something. So yes, sometimes I need to politely interject when an important question comes up. This led to a pretty stiff back and forth where I ultimately told him, "You don't speak a lick of English and don't understand the cultural difference, so please just respect my skills and leave this to me." Ultimately, we dropped the matter and ate lunch together peacefully. Still, I was maybe too harsh in my response and wanted to know if I was wrong. He's an old Soviet dedushka and can get super stubborn/holier-than-thou sometimes, and it drives me nuts. Honestly, not the asshole. As the person responsible for translating medical advice and information that can in many cases be life and death, you need to be accurate and have the full understanding. You did good. Not the asshole. Maybe a tad harsh, but you're right. He doesn't speak the language he's critiquing you on. That's understandably frustrating. Not the asshole. Yeah, you maybe could have said it nicer, like there are different customs in American English. But really you needed to explain it so he'd stop correcting you, and you did. I'm sure he'd let you know if you were disrespectful. Am I the asshole for standing my ground when my roommate kept borrowing my expensive kitchen gear without asking? I'm 27F, and I live with my roommate Jen, who I've known since college. We're generally cool, but lately she's been pushing boundaries with my stuff. A bit of background: I love cooking and baking as a hobby, and over the years I've invested in some nice equipment like a high-end stand mixer, good knives, and specialty pans that I saved up for. It's not cheap stuff, and I take care of it because it's important to me. Jen knows this. I've mentioned it a few times when we've chatted about meals. About 2 months ago I started noticing my things were being used and not put back properly. My mixer would have batter residue, or my knives would be dull from being thrown in the dishwasher, which I specifically said not to do at first. I thought maybe I was forgetting, but then I caught her using my cast iron skillet to make stir-fry for her and her friends one night. When I got home early she laughed it off like, "Oh, hope you don't mind, it's just cooking." I politely asked her to ask first next time, and she said sure, no problem. But it kept happening. I'd come home to my baking sheets warped from high heat or my expensive silicone molds sticky and not cleaned right. I confronted her again more firmly and said if she wants to use my gear, she needs to ask and treat it like her own. She got defensive, saying I'm being territorial over kitchen stuff and that roommates share things. I pointed out that her cheap pots are fine for her, and these are my personal items I bought with my money. She rolled her eyes and said fine, but then it happened again. Last week she used my stand mixer for a party dip and left it out overnight with stuff crusted on. This time I lost it a bit. I told her if she touches my stuff again without permission, I'll start locking it up in my room. She called me petty and said I'm ruining the vibe of our apartment by not being generous. Now she's been cold-shouldering me, and a mutual friend said I overreacted because it's just kitchen tools and I should share to keep the peace. But I feel like I'm just protecting what's mine after asking nicely multiple times. Not the asshole. She's not using your stuff, she's abusing it. And also, she's not giving you the courtesy of asking before doing so. If anyone is ruining the vibe of our apartment, it's she. Learn. 2. Use punctuation. There's not a single period in this entire thing. It's one giant run-on sentence. Please edit your post to include periods. It would be much easier to read. Am I the asshole for refusing to babysit my father's child with his GF? Good evening. I'm 27F, currently hiding from our dad. Please excuse the typos. BG. My parents separated for almost 11 years. Not divorced, our country doesn't allow it. It was messy, got our fair share of traumas from it. LOL. Which made explaining easy. Mom had to leave to look for a job. She explained that she couldn't provide the life our father could give us at that time. Both parents raised us to honor thy father and mother, a biblical commandment, and still respect them. Left with our dad and constantly hearing his side of the story, made us resent our mom for about a year. As an adult, I repaired my relationship with mom. I deeply regret the hurtful things I said to her. His current girlfriend of 5+ years now is Pan, has a family he constantly compares us to. Their generosity, their Christmas traditions, and how close-knit their family is. Ignoring that we had holiday traditions too before the split. My eldest sister, who basically raised us, advised us to ignore it, since you had to survive at a young age. Last year, Pan gave birth. My brother pressured our dad to come clean, but he was scared that I'd get hysterical and tell our mom. Crazy, because it's my brother who blackmailed/threatened him that he would tell our mom after a misunderstanding. When he confessed, I hugged him while he cried. I told him that if he was confident with how they raised us, he didn't have to worry or scared of me hating him. I told him later on that I could have acted the same way to him the way I did to our mom, but I already learned my lesson. My brother said that I shouldn't feel bad towards my dad, as they are both adults who knew what they were doing. December 2025, he asked me if I could take care of the baby. Pan's whole family teased me. I just laughed it off. My brother-in-law advised me not to get entangled with the new family, regardless if he offers me trips abroad or money, warning that it'll sour my relationship with my mom again. Relatives I've spoken to agreed, asking if I have any pride left. It's already a secret, but accepting the request feels like a total betrayal to my mother, considering the accusations thrown at her in the past. Dad claims that by keeping his secret and obeying him, we are honoring him, and it just feels wrong. Tonight, he insisted I cancel plans and go back to the city. When I told him I'm uncomfortable, he immediately scolded me, as now wasn't the time for me to be jealous, and they've planned it weeks ago. He said that, as a family, we should make sacrifices and set aside our feelings. That's when I broke down. My older sister intervened and took the phone. She told me I shouldn't stress over it and let the woman worry over her own children. Am I the asshole? P.S. Thank you for your patience and taking the time to read. Edit. Someone pointed that I should have included this important detail, which I failed to do earlier on, as I was overwhelmed with emotions. The reason he wants me to babysit their baby and Pan's daughter is because they will be going on an Asia cruise tour. No kids, just their family, and they included my dad because my dad joked that they know he won't allow Pan to go on out-of-town trips without him. He's not asking us to make sacrifices. Just you. Not the asshole, it's their kid, they need to raise it. Lack of preparation on their part does not constitute an emergency on your part. You are 27? Really? You sound like 17. You lack a backbone, girl. You are the asshole to yourself and your mom.